Hi friends, so the one and only Sushi Boy suggested I make a tutorial video on the R99 after he found my Mastiff tutorial so useful. By the way, click the I button in the top right corner to see that Mastiff video. But anyway, I thought it was a good idea to make an R99 tutorial because actually there are quite a lot of things that we can do to improve our gameplay with the R99, and it's definitely one of those weapons, if you get good with, it can really help you win more games. I think I might make this a series as well, so keep a lookout if you're interested in tutorials for other weapons. Looking at the R99, I think it's fair to say it's one of the best weapons in Apex Legends, mainly due to its super fast fire rate. Now I know there's a bit of a debate between the R99 and the Volt, and which one's better, so I might do a video on that as well, but for today let's focus on the R99 and what you can do to improve your gameplay with the R99. And I thought it'd be good to start with a tip that you might not have heard before, and this is a tip at how to shoot the R99 at range. So the tip is essentially to burst fire the R99 to help with accuracy at range. Basically it turns the R99 into a hemlock, and to do this all you do is just tap the fire button as you're shooting the R99. So instead of holding it down like a submachine gun that it is, try and imagine it's a hemlock and fire it like the motion of a hemlock. Now this tip should really help you use the R99 in more scenarios, and I find by burst firing the R99 it controls the recoil a lot easier, and that allows you to hit at greater distances. It also helps with the 2x scope if you're struggling to hit your shots with the 2x scope at range. Now obviously the R99 is an SMG, it's not really meant for long range, so there's still going to be a cap on how far you should be using the R99. That distance is around 39 meters, because after that it only has a 1x headshot multiplier, which basically means you don't get any extra benefit from long range shots that you hit in the head. However, this does help you to control it and do some damage at a greater distance if you burst fire, so give it a try and see if it helps you hit more shots at range. For my second tip, let's think about recoil. Because the R99 fires so quickly, the recoil can be a little tricky to control. To be fair, I wouldn't say the recoil pattern itself is what's hard. I would say it's more that because it fires so quickly, the recoil moves faster, and that's why it seems like it's harder to control sometimes. In terms of the recoil, it's basically an upwards straight recoil with a little wiggle towards the end. So the tip to control the recoil is actually just hold down as you fire. Now the amount at which you need to hold down as you fire will depend on your attachments, and I'll talk about attachments later on in these tips. For the next tip, let's talk about where to aim, and this one should definitely help you if you are struggling with that recoil. So if you start at the top of the chest, even if you can't control the recoil fully, you can actually still end up getting headshots because the recoil moves in an upwards motion and it clusters towards the end. By starting at the chest and moving up, the recoil takes it up to the head, so you actually end up getting quite a few headshots. And I have seen lots of people who can't control the recoil still trying to go for headshots, and they end up missing a lot of their shots. Whereas if you aim for the top of the chest, even if you can't control that recoil fully, you still end up hitting your shots and you can definitely do some good headshots there. Of course, if you can control the recoil easily, or if you've got really good attachments, then probably just aim for the head. Here's another useful tip that may sound simple, but again I see a lot of people making the same mistakes. And this tip is really simple. Just stop shooting if you're missing your shots. So when you miss your first couple of shots with most weapons, you can actually readjust as you're shooting, so you don't really need to stop firing, you can kind of just move your aim. But with the R99, and I see this happen a lot, because the fire rate is so fast, people tend to use half a mag and miss with those shots before they make that adjustment while firing. So this tip is actually really useful because if you stop firing, say you don't hit your first or second bullet, or you don't feel your aim is quite right, then don't shoot. Adjust your aim and then unload the mag. There isn't much room to miss with the R99, especially if you don't have an extended mag and your opponent has a strong evo shield. That's why this tip can really help you do more damage and win more battles. The next tip is also quite a simple one, but again one I don't see people doing much with the R99, and that is using Hipfire. So the R99 is very good for aiming down sights, because you can move a lot faster while aiming down sights than you can with most weapons. Obviously that's because it's an SMG. However, the R99 also has a very accurate spread with Hipfire, and that's because it's got very little horizontal spread. So you can actually increase your movement even more using Hipfire. I find this works slightly better when you're against bigger weapons, so if your opponent has an LMG or a sniper, actually hipfiring works quite nicely. But of course at range you always want to be aiming down sights, and also I find if it's SMG on SMG, so for example if your opponent also has an R99, then actually aiming down sights can be quite useful in those situations, because then it becomes a little bit more about hitting your shots. And finally, let's talk about attachments. It's fairly simple for the R99. Most of the skins have fairly decent iron sights, So the focus for the R99s really are the barrel stabilizers, and here's something you maybe didn't know. The purple and the gold barrel stabilizers have the exact same percentage reduction of recoil, so that's 20% less recoil and 30% less randomness. So actually, there isn't really any difference. The main difference is only that the gold one gets rid of muzzle flash, which to be honest, most people don't struggle with anyway. The stock on the other hand helps reduce switch times and aim drift. Obviously the R99 has a small mag, so you want to grab an extended mag if you can, but I would definitely prioritise a barrel stabiliser and an extended mag over a stock and a set of sights. For example, if you've got another weapon that carries a barrel stabiliser, and you're trying to decide, do I put my barrel stabiliser in the R99 or this other weapon, I would always say prioritise the R99 because it's really going to help you with your recoil, and you can definitely do a lot more damage, or at least hit more of your shots. Oh yeah, and one last thing, make sure you carry a lot of light ammo when you're using the R99. I say that because it eats through ammo so quickly, again due to that fast fire rate. It's the fastest fire rate in the game, so you need enough ammo to be able to last you throughout the game. I normally advise stacks of 240 to 300, that's kind of what I always aim to carry. And that's it for my tips on the R99. I hope these were useful. If you learn to master the R99, it can definitely help you win more games, and that's why a lot of pros use the R99. For now though, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.